Great. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for coming here today. My name is Gillian Simpson. I'm a partner in our Deloitte Digital practice in London. And I'm delighted today to bring you our panel session on marketing technology. So we've got four very exciting presenters to talk you through their stories and the companies that they represent here today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our first speaker. So our first speaker is Adi. Adi is the founder of myAthena, an AI-powered platform that enables retailers to create shoppable video ads and transform their online stores into retail media channels. So welcome, Adi.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adi Ronen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of myAthena, a product by BuyWith. At BuyWith, we've been doing live shopping events and shoppable videos for a couple of years now with some of the largest companies in the world. And we recently launched myAthena, the first ever video solution for the retail media industry. The retail media market is growing fast, and there is a huge opportunity. This market is going to hit more than $170 billion in sales soon. Amazon made more than $50 billion last year, and it's already 1/5 of the ad spend in the US. So we all know that video can impact significantly almost on every metric in e-commerce. For instance, we know that it can impact on the add-to-cart metric. We also know that every product, every PDP with a video inside of it can convert much better than a PDP without it. In addition, also, if you think about yourself as a client, as a user, if you see a video on e-commerce, it helps you to get to the purchase decision. But retail media today is very static. Though we all know that videos can help increase conversion by 48%, the problem is that to create millions of pieces of videos for ads on retail media, it's still a hassle, even with all the AI tools out there. So we created the first ever video-based solution for retail media. This is an example of a retailer where we added video ads across the entire funnel, on the category pages, on the search results, on the PDPs, and even on the homepage. So the way we do it, we take all the guidelines of the retailers, because as we all know, they could be very strict. We take all the guidelines of the brands, and then we put them as AI prompts inside of our virtual studio. So then in this studio, you can use UGC and also influencer content or brand experts content. And in real time, we analyze these videos, and we make sure they are compliant and on brand. Then the AI takes all these videos, cut them into dozens of short snippets that fit to each placement. It could fit to on-site placements. So for the search results, category pages, PDPs, anywhere on site. Also for the off-site placements, so social media, paid media campaigns, and also on publishers' websites. In addition to that, these videos can go to the in-store placements like screens in the stores. This is an example of a case study that we had with one of the largest retailers in the US. We took these short-form, authentic pieces of content, and we used them on paid media campaigns on Meta, and we achieved 15x ROAS within less than 1 month. So think about yourself. When you're browsing an e-commerce site or just the web, what would make you more convinced? Just a static image of a product or a video where you can see a real person, if it's an influencer, a user, or someone from the brand, really show you the product itself, explain you about the product in a very short piece of video. So our videos can be used on the e-commerce site, on social media, organic content, and eventually our goal and our vision is to bring video to retail media. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Adi. And next onto the stage, we're going to welcome John Williams. So John is the co-CEO and CTO of Amplience, where he leads the technical vision for enabling headless content management for modern commerce experiences. So, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Oh, my mic's not working. Oh, it is. Hi, everyone. I'm John Williams, as I said, co-CEO, CTO, co-founder, lots of core titles. We believe that content is one of the most important assets that you can actually have in e-commerce. Without content, you're not selling a product, especially online. Content is the thing that will connect your customers to your products. It'll connect the aspirations, their desires, to your product's attributes and its values, and it will connect it to your actual brand. And what we believe in Amplience is that we should take away all the constraints from producing content so you can deliver content at the speed of your ideas. And it's never been more important today than any other time. With the macro environment, costs are escalating, margins have been squeezed, and not only that, you've got, as we just seen earlier, you've got all of these new customer expectations with Gen Z and Gen Alpha. There's never been a bigger demand for content. But this is the problem. The problem with producing content is your content supply chain. You know, it's full of outdated processes. It's full of old tools that are not appropriate for dealing with managing content. That most things are done in Excel, even today, right? And it's all there to try and connect people together, specialists, to move across all of these different workflows. And it's just not efficient. It's slow, it's cumbersome, it's inefficient. The whole process can take 3 to 4 weeks, in many cases, just to get a product into market. And it's just, but actually, you'll all be talking about AI right now. You've been out there, everything is AI powered. And there is a route to get there. There is a route to be more efficient. There is a route to get to that nirvana of producing content more quickly. And at Amplience, we've created this, path, this stairway, where you start from an assistant. Well, we've got our content studio, where it can deal with those day-to-day tasks. You can create content on brand to your particular tone of voice and try and test and see what works. And that's the first place you need to try. You know, you might already be using a ChatGPT or a Copilot, and it's exactly where you need to start. Following that, you would then understand that there are areas within your content supply chain that you need to optimize. You know, those repetitive tasks, those onerous tasks, those tasks that you could make more efficient. And with that, we look at augmentation. And that's where you'll get an agent out of where you've worked, say, with the content studio, and then you apply it within that content supply chain and augment that. And we've had some massive success. Just going through that process, you can get a 30% improvement in your overall production. And that's not all. If you move further and you think about how workflows work and you want to go more towards a machine and AI-generated control, we're talking about automation. And if you haven't been to our stand, you should see it. We have the next generation of agentic workflows in which a business user can actually construct an entire new content supply chain just by dragging and dropping agents. And in that scenario, you can speed up your content supply chain by 50 to 100%. It's massively improving. And then the next most exciting thing that you're going to see is a whole transition when it comes to applications, moving from digital to a cognitive system. And in that world, we'll have the first CMS that will be completely agentic, where you just ask the CMS to do something for you, it will work out what it needs to do, and then deliver on that. So you might be wondering actually who Amplience is and what we do, right? So I thought I'd leave this to the end. This is the obligatory slide. We deliver content, we generate content, we deliver content, we manage content for the largest brands and retailers in the world. We have a headless CMS, we have a headless DAM, content delivery, and now we have a whole agentic content production platform as well as that. And if you'd like to contact me after this, you can get me on LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel. I've just done TikTok, so I'm going to try and get some ideas on video production. But thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Right, next we're going to move on to Rachel Tipograph. So Rachel is the founder and CEO at MikMak, a technology platform that helps brands to understand online shopping behavior and make any digital media shoppable. Prior to founding MikMak, Rachel was the global director of digital and social media at Gap and building the practice from the ground up. So welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Hello. Excited to be here. I'm going to spend a lot of time today taking you through MikMak's data so you can see what we're seeing in the macro economy. I'm Rachel Tipograph, the founder and CEO of MikMak. You might be able to tell from my accent, I'm from New York, but my company is global, and 40% of our customers are actually based in EMEA. We are the company that invented what the industry describes as where to buy in environments like Meta and TikTok and Google and Pinterest and CTV and your brand websites. So if you're ever given the power to choose, Amazon, Tesco, Asada, DoorDash, Getir, Uber Eats, that's us powering those experiences. And as a result, we can then report back on that end-to-end consumer data, from impression all the way down to basket-level sales data at over 8,000 retailers and marketplaces around the world. We have the great pleasure of working with over 2,500 of the biggest brands in the world. You can see many of their logos here. But what's more important is about the scale of what we do. Last year, 1.5 billion shoppers went through MikMak. If MikMak was a standalone retailer or marketplace, we'd actually be the 14th largest in the world. And last year, we were appended to $3 billion of global ad spend. If MikMak were a standalone media platform, we'd actually be the 15th largest in the world. We'd be bigger than Criteo. We'd be bigger than Spotify. I'm sharing this because as I go through the data, our data is truly statistically significant. And it's why the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg turn to us every single day to understand what's happening in the global consumer economy. Now, I spend most of my time talking with all of you, and I can tell you that no matter what you're selling, you are all dealing with the exact same three problems. First, you're trying to figure out how to generate profit in the crazy macro environment that we're all navigating. Obviously, there's inflationary pressures. We're in a global trade war, and then your bosses are asking you to do more with less because of AI, yet your legal teams won't even allow you to use AI. The second is what I'm going to spend a lot of my time talking about, which is you need to drive demand to increase your volume sales. When I look at all of your earnings, you have one consistent theme. Volume sales are down, yet your retail media spend is up. How does that make sense? And we're going to unpack that together. And then finally, how do you gain consumers for life? The retailers are saying you got to drive more to your PDP pages, you have to spend more with them in retail media, but you're not seeing the incremental sales. Now, the very interesting thing about the EU environment right now is that when I look at Q1 media data in the EU compared to Q4, you're actually really stable, which doesn't make a lot of sense because the world has turned upside down in the last 120 days. But if you look at the US, it's a very different story. When you compare Q1 to Q4, the US media ecosystem was extremely volatile. On January 19th, TikTok went dark. It was banned in the US. You can see in this little chart here, our TikTok traffic went to 0. It took until about March 1st for TikTok to reach Q4 levels, and then it surpassed its Q4 traffic. Where did this traffic go? It went to Alphabet, meaning Google Search, YouTube, DV360, and Pinterest. Brands were looking for brand safety and to drive conversion all at once. I share this because when you look at the EU data, and you all know this, what happens in the US eventually happens in the EU. And so while you might be feeling like media landscape here is fairly stable, I can tell you a reckoning is coming. But the really interesting thing is that you can be in the driver's seat with your media partners. And the reason why I bring this up is when you think about EBITDA, there's two ways to meet your numbers. Reduce headcount or play with your media spend. But if you play with your media spend and you reduce media spend, history goes to show what happens. You lose market share. So you have to do everything in your power right now to convince your CFO to not stop investing in brand. And I bring this up because lesson number 2 from the US. If you look at US media plans, it's been inverted. 70% of investment is going to retail media right now, while 30% is going to brand. And volume sales are down. If you want your volume sales to go up, you got to invest in upper funnel media. You need to put 70% of your investment towards upper funnel media to drive volume sales. It's about to become a very interesting time, and the only way to win in this environment is you have to be platform agnostic. You can't go all in on one media channel or one retailer. You got to invest in full funnel media if you want to drive volume sales, and you need to be in a position to own the data so you can navigate the level of volatility that currently exists in the market in real time. If you want to learn more, you can go to mikmak.com. You can check out my podcast, Brave Commerce, or just find me after, Rachel@mikmak.com. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Rachel. And finally, we're going to introduce Elad Simon, who is the CEO of Zeotap. So Zeotap is a customer intelligence platform that helps brands to unify, enrich, and activate customer data to deliver better marketing outcomes through privacy-first and AI-driven insights. Thank you.
Thanks, Gillian. Hi, everybody. I'm Elad Simon. I'm the CEO of Zeotap. Zeotap is a customer data platform, actually the leading European customer data platform, which has a lot of fancy words around it, but we'll talk about it in a minute. For those who don't know what CDPs actually do, what customer data platforms actually do, I'm going to start with what we see in our customers as a very, very common issue. So, I mean, as you can see from the proliferation of tech stack around us and from this fancy diagram, this is how MarTech looks like right now, and there's a lot of apps out there, and I'm sure everybody's quite confused. What actually we see in most of our customers is this, right? So basically, this spaghetti of messy tech stacks, like unconnected well, like data is not flowing between systems. Everybody's struggling to actually move data from one place to the other. Everybody's need a data analyst in order to actually get a campaign up and running. It takes a week, it takes 2 weeks. You need to convince your colleague to do things. It's a big mess. The second thing that we're seeing, especially in large companies, which is our focus, is this. So marketing teams in large enterprises, well, not exactly this, right? So we're not actually seeing like, you know, medieval kind of people, but what we are seeing actually is you see a lot of conflicts and a lot of silos in marketing teams in large enterprises. Why does that happen? Actually, if you think about it, what we're all supposed to be doing as marketeers is to actually build our teams around customer experience, right? So if I'm a consumer, I want somebody or somebodies to think through my entire journey in a large enterprise. However, there is the paid media team, there is the customer lifecycle team, there is the service team. All of these are completely siloed, working independently, and in many cases have politics and mess around them. What happens as a result is the following. First of all, and I think we all feel that every day when we come to our apps, to our website, etc., we have a broken customer experience. At the end of the day, what we all expect, especially now, is everything to work on time, in real time, know us, understand us. Everything should be seamless and amazing. What practically happens is that you buy something or you subscribe to something, and afterwards you log in and you find out actually your subscription is not updated, like because the system hasn't yet updated and you have to wait. It's a mess. The second thing we're seeing, and that's more for you guys, the marketeers, is that you see a lot of missed revenue opportunities. In essence, what the CDPs like us focus on is actually the customer data, like your first-party customer data. There's a lot of money to be made there. There's a lot of revenue opportunities with upselling, with cross-selling, and with commerce media, all of which are missed because of this mess that we saw before. And the last but not least, as mentioned earlier, you have a lot of people that needs to move data from one place to the other. A lot of time is wasted. A lot of resources are wasted just by understanding the data and then moving it from one side to the other. And that's where we come in, a customer data platform. We empower large enterprises. We're a European company. And now our 4 main things that we do differently than other people is, 1, we're privacy first. We're a German-based company, and we are built in Europe for European companies. Second thing is we're AI-powered. We have to say that. It's on every presentation that we heard and you will hear. in this conference. I'll talk about that in the panel more. We have InfraFlex, which is basically we are able to match to whatever your infrastructure is. No matter whether you're on AWS or Google or on Azure, or no matter if you're using Snowflake or BigQuery or some other unknown data warehouse, we are able to connect to you. And last but not least, we're commerce media built in, as in we have all the capabilities to actually support your commerce media efforts. This is a fancier version of what I just said, where you can see data actually moving from the left, which is all your data sources. We take all the data sources, combine it into a customer view of your customers, and then actually activate it into your activation platforms. That enables you basically to do your marketing activities much more easily, fast, and more effective. And these are just examples of the work that we're doing with retailers like Ronen, where we see an activation campaign that helps bring 46% higher than average basket value. With Douglas, where we achieved almost 100% match rate, and we've improved the ROI on their campaigns by 40%. And Reve, where we basically reduced their cost per visit by 24%, and it helped them actually use their marketing budget in a much more effective way. That's it from me. That's my email. You can find me on LinkedIn. Happy to talk, happy to connect. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much. Some really interesting presentations and stats there to inspire us all. So we've got some questions to start off with. So our first theme is we're going to talk about campaign innovation. So we have heard a lot about agentic in the past few months. So maybe, John, can you bring to life what this agentic CMS looks like? And can you give us some real-life examples as to how it could work?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I think what you've got to understand is that we're moving from a world which would be regarded as digital, where you work out business requirements, you get developers then encode those business requirements into some outcomes. In the new world, agents are individual, think of it modules that are more intelligent, that make decisions that are goal-oriented. And what that means is when you bring these together into a system like a CMS, is that you will ask the CMS to build something for you, like a campaign. The CMS will decide how to do that and go and do it. So an example would be, for instance, regenerate my Black Friday campaign from last year, was really successful. But instead of theming it on cats like we did last year, let's theme it on dogs. And the CMS will create all the content types, slots, where there are cats on sofas, it will replace it with a dog. If it doesn't have the content, it will then generate all of that content, schedule it all out. If you want to change it from a 5%, 10%, 15% ratcheting through the time, it will kind of, to say a 10, 15, 20%, it'll do all of those changes. So you give it a brief, it works out what to do, it goes and does all of the work, and then you just have to review what it's actually done and make changes as it happens, as opposed to having to do the heavy duty, heavy lifting, do all of the manual work.
Yeah, wow. And it sounds like we talked a lot about AI over the past couple of years and Gen AI, but I think this is the thing that's going to really transform organizations and the way that they work.
Yeah.
And constant change, I think, has been a real theme that we've been talking about over the last couple of days here. And Rachel, you mentioned quite a lot of change going on in the media space. So can you give an example about how you've helped brands to really understand what those media changes and trends are and how they've changed their strategies off the back of the insight that you've given?
Yeah, I think Q1 is a living case study. With TikTok going dark on January 19th, TikTok on any given day represented our number 3 traffic source. So that's millions and millions of dollars that had to go somewhere. Our customer at Unilever, literally the chief digital officer, Ryu, logged into the platform to understand where were his competitors reallocating dollars. And unlike a lot of people, instead of following the pack, he went for the complete white space. And what he identified in the data is that none of his competitors were investing in audio, Spotify, Pandora.
Yep.
Unilever went after the opportunity, and if you looked at their latest earnings, they had a great Q1.
Amazing. And that's both of those examples are really highlighting that organizational agility that you need to have. And you can see how these things could start to work together, because if you're reducing the manual effort that it requires to come up with campaigns, you're able to be more agile in switching where you're going in your regular campaigns as you go. So on to you, Adi. So we saw an amazing platform there which you can use for user-generated content. But one of the things that brands are often very concerned about is that brand consistency. And obviously, user-generated content is a great opportunity to bring your community together and to get different perspectives which might resonate with different customers. But how do they go about making sure that they've got that brand consistency on their user-generated content?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what we want to do is actually replace static image with videos. Now, when you talk about user-generated content or influencer content or even brand content, we know that today brands really, really care about the way it feels, the way it looks, and we want to prevent all this back and forth and all the, the fact where you have a lot of pieces of content, but you can't use them because they're not on brand and they're not compliant also with the retailer's guidelines. So what we do, we take all the guidelines, both of the brands and the retailers, we upload them as AI prompts to our system, and then in real time, in the content creation process, we put some alerts, and we are telling you what to do and what not to do. So for instance, we have a retailer that they're not allowing kids in the frame because of regulations issues. So once we recognize a kid in the frame, even a picture in the background, we immediately let you know that you need to move this. In addition to that, we also create this AI brief. So we scan the product page, we take all the highlights automatically, and we recommend and we give tips about what to say and what's not. So eventually you'll have your content, if it's UGC or influencer content, on brand and exactly like you need it.
I have to say, I did have a little try of this product in our preparation, and I think it can make influencers out of all of us. So it's great. Great. And so over to you, Elad. We have obviously talked about AI a lot, and CDPs are a critical activation of AI. And in our preparation chats, we talked about AI for CDP and CDPs for AI. So talk to me about those concepts.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that question. Basically, when we think about how AI impacts the world of CDPs, as you said, there are basically two elements that we're looking at. One is how does AI helps CDPs? So if you think about, and this is probably every vendor in the world right now is thinking, okay, how do I use AI to make my platform a bit better? That's what I mean by AI for CDP. There, we're thinking about two things. One is around effectiveness, and one is around efficiency. When you talk about efficiency, this is like basically doing the same things that you can do yourself in hours or weeks or month in the day, like instead in like minutes. And that's where we see a lot of the agentic use of basically prompts of saying, okay, instead of like building an audience with a lot of back and forth kind of like selectors, et cetera, you can just like give a prompt and then the audience will be built or a journey will be built. That's in terms of efficiency. In terms of effectiveness, that's where we're seeing actually the use of predictive models to actually make decisions on what should be activated where. So this is where you actually take machine learning based, which is actually the old AI before we all became Gen AI kind of gurus, and actually use that to actually decide, okay, how do I find my highest spenders? How do I find my churn, my likely to churn, and how do I activate those? So that's like on the efficiency side of things. Oh, sorry, on the effectiveness side of things. When it comes to CDP for AI, that's talking about the ability of enterprises to prepare for AI. Everybody, and I think everybody mentioned this, all the enterprises right now are, oh my God, we have to be prepared for AI. Nobody's actually doing much apart from like using Gemini to whatever, write their emails faster, predominantly, but everybody's talking about it. In order to actually do something with this, we know that the data that is preparing the AI agents for the enterprises has to be ready for AI, has to be ready for MCP, and to do that, we're preparing an engine that would allow enterprises to take the data easily and get it in an AI-ready state so that whenever they actually want to activate and actually want to use AI and build their chatbots and build their AI agents, they'll be able to do that in a very easy way.
Yep. So they've got somewhere to dock into.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And then, obviously, this is enabling scale like we've never seen before, and certainly one of the real next unlocks of personalization is getting it up to that level of scale to get that kind of one to segment down as much as possible. Obviously, that then brings into account geographic complexities. And how, John, have you got an example there about how you can use Gen AI, but in a very culturally sympathetic way, that means that you don't lose that human impact that you would have had?
Yeah, sure. We have a customer, I think they're out here today actually, the Landmark Group, where we actually implemented AI to help them with product descriptions. And they have to do product descriptions not just in English, but also in Arabic. Now, there's some obvious things that you need to deal with in the Middle East about how you generate content, how you need to be more sensitive and more culturally aware. But what was really interesting to me was making sure that the AI spoke in their brand language, for one thing, so using things like taxonomies and guides, but also the difference between how you talk about something in English in that region to how you talk about it in Arabic is different. In English, you'll talk about the what. You know, it's a table, it's got a wooden top, steel legs, it's this size, etc., right? It's a what. But in Arabic, you have to push much harder on the why. You'll talk about the reason why you might want that it's perfect for a family celebration following breaking a fast at an iftar, those kind of things. So it was very different in terms of generating those descriptions, and it was less about translation, more like kind of transcreation and making sure that it wasn't just sensitive to the cultural boundaries, but actually delivered on the region in terms of how they bought the product in that particular language.
Yeah. And so that can help companies to expand into new geos much quicker because they can be much more culturally.
There's the little bit time setting it up and making sure that you can get it into that mindset when it's generating that content. But it does mean then you can create content that is much more effective in different regions, and you can do it at scale. Because there's nothing worse than just directly translating some content from English to French to German to Arabic and not actually delivering it in context into that market.
Yeah, brilliant. And so when we talk about moving into new kind of audience segments and things, Rachel, can you give me an example of where you've helped organizations to identify new customer segments, possibly through the data that you've got, and go after those?
Yeah, I'll take it a step further on how they unlocked value with their retail partners. So we work with tons of beauty brands, L'Oreal, Shiseido. The #1 Gen Z skincare brand right now is CeraVe around the world. Yeah. #2 is The Ordinary, which Shiseido owns. So we work with both, but this is a case study about Shiseido and The Ordinary. So with The Ordinary, we were able to help them show Sephora that they're actually the #1 selling Gen Z skincare brand at Sephora over Sephora's competitors in France, like Look Fantastic.
Yeah.
That unlocked tremendous value for them in their JBP agreements, and it unlocked physical in-store shelf space for The Ordinary. And so audience development and identifying pockets of growth, it doesn't stop at lighting up a new audience in Facebook. It's taking it to your sales teams to enable them to unlock stories and value with their retail partners.
Right. So on to measurement then, and we're seeing a lot of, and we saw on one of your slides earlier around all of the different MarTech that we've got available, and that just brings so much complexity to an organization in terms of how do you use it, how do you measure through it, you've got different data coming from different places. Like, have you got any thoughts about how you help organizations, as a partner in that MarTech space? I'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's kind of like the core of what we do as a platform, right? So eventually, a CDP is really at the heart of the MarTech stack because it connects to everything and connects from everything, right? So the ability to actually ingest all the data that you have in the organization, which is surprisingly messy, right? So you would assume everything is just sitting nicely in a CRM or a data warehouse. Well, it's not. Actually, it's sitting in like multiple data warehouses and 3 CRMs, and also in the clickstream of the website, and actually in an app, and there's like a lot of mess around sources, and the ability to actually take that and connect that into an actual, what we call a golden record, actually understanding, what does Elad do or what does John do across his entire experience with the enterprise is the core of what we do. And then afterwards, when you have that data, then you're like, okay, let me make use of this, right? So either I'm going to run an email campaign, or I'm going to run a media campaign, or I'm going to suppress the campaign from my existing customer base. So all of that is what we do. And that's at the core, this composability and connectivity is at the core of what we do as a company, right? So the ability to actually take the data, make it available, and then connect it to all the other sources. It's the heart of what we do, and we are. Mitch, our head of partnership, is sitting here, and we have a lot of partners here. Almost everybody we talk to here are our friends because at the end of the day, we have to connect with all of these people. So, and that's like at the essence of what we do. So, absolutely.
And you can imagine, though, for any brands and retailers, that you've got the first-party data that you can get so much value from, and then Rachel, you're bringing in that external data perspective for them, and it's trying to bring that together to then have those insights and be able to activate off the back of that.
Yeah, I think the big shift in the industry is we all used to be our own walled gardens.
Yes.
And now we recognize that as an ecosystem, we have to make our data available to others. So a big change in our platform over the last 18 months was actually a shift from being platform first to API first for everything that you're explaining.
Yeah, great. And then from a comms and channel fragmentation perspective, how does Amplience help with that?
Well, one thing, we are a Mac Alliance partner, so everything is APIs. Everything is API first in cloud and all that good stuff. But I think one of the things that you need to think about is not just the fragmentation in terms of the applications, but also the fragmentation in terms of channels themselves. We're seeing less sort of brand.com sized growth and more about fragmentation into different channels, hence the whole thing around video and social, marketplaces, and the revival of stores. And all of these other channels are starting to play a fundamental part of the ecosystem. So, and if you even go further and start looking at sort of the new agents, Perplexity, ChatGPT, there is a whole new way of accessing products, right, and finding things out. People can, in the US particularly, you go into Perplexity and just search and buy a product directly from that without even going to a site.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, we all have to think about how do you deal with that fragmentation? How do you deal with the fact that you're moving towards a more distributed commerce model, and how you deliver the tooling that you need for agentic, and also the consistency of content across all of those pieces, so that it all makes a kind of fundamental kind of joined up story.
Yeah. And that concept of having like a dark digital store that the agents can interact with,
Yeah.
you know, is another level. We've heard a lot over the last couple of days about retail media networks. And so talk to me about how you can help brands to work with those retail media networks to really understand and measure the impact of those videos.
Yes, definitely. So what we do, we integrate directly with retail media networks, or we integrate with the platforms and the tech solution and everything. And then for the brands, what we do, we take all the performance from the videos that were uploaded to the retail media networks, and then we help them to optimize them for the next videos that are coming. So it's like a closed-the-loop approach that actually helps them to produce more and more videos at scale, have them fit to every placement, every dimension at once. So instead of having all these like back and forth in the content creation process, instead of having all this like workload of creating, different size, different dimension, different version for every platform, we actually bring the platform to the studio, and then we help them to create the most convertible ad that they could have for each platform like this.
Great, and that's really bringing to life the change that it's going to have on the workforce. And I think we've heard that across everything. And how people need to transform their marketing organizations to really take advantage of all of the technology that's available. Have you got any views on how companies need to help their employees to adopt all of these new tools and to make the most of them, and what they should be thinking about? Do you want to start?
Yeah, I can take this. Two things that we saw that could hurt or make a success when you implement a marketing tool inside of the organization. So one thing is to really give it enough time of optimization. Because we see that a lot of companies want to try a lot of tools, right? You have so many out there. Look here, right, at the show. So you need to give it enough time of optimization to really make it a success. And the second thing is really to give the person that is responsible of the project enough organizational power to push it within the company.
Yeah.
So those would be my 2 points.
Great. Okay, I'm going to wrap up then with our final question. So just one thing for retailers and brands to take away, and about how they can really take your insight and drive it into action tomorrow. So I'll start with you.
Well, I'd say, use CDPs to activate your data.
Great.
If I may say so.
Invest in brand media or you'll lose market share.
Yeah, I would say that start now at efficiency it is in retail right now, and then you should start looking at where are the places that you can effectively make change within your existing content supply chain and make those changes.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I would say I'm not objective, but embrace video because this is the future.
Wonderful. Great. Well, hopefully you've all found that helpful, and thank you very much for coming.